The next topic I want to turn to today, there was a lot of ongoing today even, kerfuffle, battle between Representative Ilhan Omar and various people. And so I want to start with Representative Ilhan Omar. As you likely know her name, she is the Democrat candidate, Democrat elected member of U.S. Congress from Minnesota. She is a Somalian Muslim refugee. She is the first person to wear the Islamic headdress in Congress. She's the first woman Muslim who's been a member of Congress. And so she has been controversial since she arrived, not necessarily because of her skin color, not because of her ethnicity, and not even really because of her religion. She has been in the headlines, in the news, because of the kinds of things she says. And I'm setting up, we're going to get around to talking today about the tweet that President Trump set out, the series of tweets that so enraged the American left related to Ilhan Omar and others, but Ilhan Omar is the main one. But I want to start with just talking with you about Ilhan Omar and the kinds of things that she has said to make the argument that we need to begin to be able in this country to go beyond discussing, well, Democrats think this, Republicans think this, liberals think this, conservatives think this, left wing, right wing. We need to begin to be able to discuss the concept of what it means to be American, what it means to stand up for American values, and then what it means if you are opposed to those values. Is it fair to call you anti-American or un-American? Because in my view, the views that Ilhan Omar embraces, holds, spews forth relentlessly are simply un-American. And it's really important to understand she's not just a left-winger who believes in bigger government, although she is very clearly Marxist-leaning. If you watched my show a few weeks ago, we had a clip from a congressional hearing in which a pastor was testifying about the notion that a woman pastor was testifying about the notion that she thought that the U.S. government should, how she thought they should allocate government resources in terms of welfare or assistance to cities and low-income people. And she was basically saying that it's better to encourage people to become self-reliant, self-sufficient. She told her life story. And Ilhan Omar, in the most brazen, ugly, vicious attack imaginable, launched into this pastor, mocking her, a woman pastor who happened to be black also, mocking her for choosing life when she faced an unplanned pregnancy, mocking her for her self-reliance, mocking her for making a success out of herself, and mocking her for suggesting that maybe we don't do such a great service to people, allowing them to live in perpetual reliance on government. Ilhan Omar, at the core, is a very left-wing, I'd call her a socialist or even a Marxist. She's got that what ongoing, growing blending in this country between Marxist thinking and Islamic thinking. But I digress. Back to her. Ilhan Omar, I want to just play, to start with, a clip. This is a clip from Ilhan Omar when she spoke at a I can't remember what kind of thing it was. She spoke at a event. Go ahead. It does matter. She spoke at Netroots, very left-wing, very radical group. Here's Ilhan Omar speaking recently on a panel at Netroots Nation.
Something that I get criticized for all the time. It's not what you think, so don't don't gasp. It is that I am anti-American because I criticize the United States, and I believe, as an immigrant, I probably love this country more than anyone that is naturally born. And because I am ashamed of it continuing to live in its hypocrisy, that I work so hard to make sure that others who've had why just be American, why don't you be more like an American, can continue to say that. Why can't you be more like an American? Because it used to be a very positive thing. We export American exceptionalism, the great America, the land of liberty and justice. That is, if you ask anybody walking on the side of the street somewhere in the middle of the world, they will tell you America the Great. but we don't live those values here. And so that hypocrisy is one that I'm bothered by. I want America the Great to be America the Great.
Okay. That was Ilhan Omar, again, at this Netroots Nation panel. And I want to just run through, and I'm talking about how extremely troublesome her attitude, her views are. I'm going to run through just one very minor thing, which the idea that she thinks she loves America more than people who are naturally born here is so brazenly just absurd and self-important and self-aggrandizing and morally superior and virtue signaling. She doesn't even understand America, which we're going to get to in a moment. But this idea, this is Ilhan Omar, who's made numerous anti-Semitic statements over and over and over and over. She hates the Jewish people. She hates Israel. She makes obnoxious comments all the time. Once in a while, she's been forced to backpedal and quasi apologize, but usually she'll even tag on to one of her apologies something along the lines that she's being picked on because she happens to be a Muslim immigrant, and she gets a special and unfair scrutiny for the kinds of things she says. But she's stridently anti-Semitic, stridently anti-Jewish, stridently anti-Israel. She also repeatedly refers to America as not great, as you heard her just say. I probably love the country more than anyone, but I'm ashamed of it continuing to live in its hypocrisy. And I got to tell you, folks, this is something we're going to hit on the show over and over today, but it is one thing for anyone in this country, in fact, anyone in this country would say America is not perfect. Yeah, we're not perfect. We have problems. We don't have a perfect system. We don't have a perfect healthcare system. We don't have a perfect system of laws. We sometimes make mistakes. We have courts that make mistakes. We have judges that make mistakes. We have laws that should be changed. Everyone recognizes America is not perfect. But her worldview, and I'm going to get to more of the kinds of things she has said in very, very recent days, her view is she gets to mock, ridicule, scorn America, never giving credit for the enormous blessing America has provided to her. She is in America because she was a Somalian refugee attacked by at the mercy of being attacked by other Muslims in Somalia, sent to a horrific refugee camp in Kenya where she was very poor. And then in Kenya, she was ultimately her family offered the opportunity to come to America. She came to America. We're going to get into more details in a moment. She's been blessed with. She's from just an impoverished Kenyan refugee camp, a refugee camp for Somalians in Kenya, to a member of the U.S. Congress, and all she does is bash America over and over and over again. At some point, you're allowed to call that anti-American. At some point, you're allowed to say that. That is not simply she is saying, we have improvements to make, I think the laws should change, I think this and that should be the law. She's not saying that. She is just at the gut level saying she is disgusted with America. She's turned off by it. And she even said it used to be a great thing, but it's not a positive thing anymore to be called an American because Americans don't live their values. Let me just tell you a little bit about the kinds of things she said, because this all matters when we get around to understanding the core, what was behind what President Trump knew about her at the time he tweeted things which have been, criticized heavily in the media. But let me just go back to her story. She describes when she was in Kenya in the refugee camp, Ilhan Omar, that after they finally found out they got to come to America, they were actually brought to a center where they were able to learn a little bit about America. They saw a video of America, how great America is. She'd never been there. She was a kid. And, they have, as she describes it, they have the suburbia and neatly mowed lawns and nice looking houses. And so this is what America is. It's all like this. Okay. She starts out, let me back up and tell you, she gave a speech recently at a high school, I believe it was in Minneapolis, Richfield High School, to 400 students. She told these students, as this person who's come from a Somalian background, a Kenyan refugee camp, to a member of Congress, she got her college education in America, she had her high school education, her college education, her kickoff into politics in Minnesota. And so her message is, She thought America was going to be a big-hearted country, but America is not the big-hearted country that saved her from brutal war. And she said she was disappointed, like so many refugees were. She said, I grew up in an extremely unjust society. The only thing that made my family excited about coming to the U.S. was that the U.S. was supposed to be a country that guaranteed justice to all. So I feel it's necessary for me to speak up about that promise not being kept. She went on and on to describe America as racist, cruel, and unjust. In particular, she told a story to these high school students about having, in a previous job in Minnesota, she was sent to review the court. She was working for a city councilman. And she told about going to the courts, watching a court proceeding in Minneapolis in which a grandmother, an African-American woman, a grandmother, was brought in front of the judge, and she'd been in jail for a weekend over stealing a $2 loaf of bread because her 5-year-old granddaughter was starving, and the judge imposed an $80 penalty on this woman that she couldn't pay. And so Ilhan Omar, so full of outrage, she jumped up in the middle of the courtroom and yelled, "Bull, S." And so she's just, she's this virtue signaling out the wazoo. How proud am I? I stood up. I said this was unjust. Afterwards, she's asked, what the heck are you talking about? That didn't even happen. In Minneapolis, the only thing that happens to people who are shoplifters, they're sent to a 3-hour class. She ended up saying, I might have not gotten the story right. The details might not have been all matched, but that's what I remember. She made up a story about the injustice, and it would be an absurd injustice. If it were true, it had nothing to do with reality. But this is the kind of thing she does over and over and over. You're entitled to be outraged about that. You're entitled to say, this woman is anti-American. She's trying to plant the seeds of hating America in the minds of these high school students she was speaking to. Okay, so back to her eventual venturing to the United States. She goes to watch this movie in Nairobi about how great America is. She sees pristine suburbs, perfect lawns, blah, blah. And then she gets here and she discovers that, they got to America, and she said, I learned I was the extreme other. I was black, I was Muslim. I also learned I was extremely poor. So she's, instead of being recognizing she had the opportunity to come to America and be embraced in America. They lived in New York City for a while. They moved to this community in Minneapolis because it's heavily Muslim, and I guess they thought they feel more at home there. But she's complaining about how she's treated because she's black, she's Muslim, and she's poor. Instead of recognizing she got the opportunity to go to school, to get her degree, to finish high school, finish college. So she went on and on complaining about this. She had her first child age 20, got her degree, kept moving forward. But her complaints go on with things about her life, such as and these are the kinds of things when I tell you that she says anti-American things, it's okay to see her this way. In March of this year, at a banquet for the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, and again, I'll remind you, go back through these shows, videos, you can find videos, we've talked about this. CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, is Hamas. CARE is Hamas in America. CARE is not, as this article describes, a Muslim civil rights group. It is directly tied to Muslim terror. That's what CARE is. It's a cover. It's a front for Hamas. So she's speaking at CARE. She described the September 11th attack as CARE was founded after 9/11, which wasn't even true, because they recognized that some people did something. That's her description of 9/11. And so this was the one Trump kind of said, wait a minute, that's more than some people did something. That's a pretty big thing they did. So she finishes her speech complaining about the horrible injustice that Muslims receive in this country and tells this group, this CARE audience, raise hell, make people uncomfortable. She actually, in May, she had allies held a rally on her behalf in front of the U.S. Capitol. And she was talking about how she was so grateful to be supported by these radical leftists on the stage, including Angela Davis in front of the U.S. Capitol. And her statement to the public, reported in the media, was, this is not going to be the country of white people. This is not going to be the country of the few. This is her characterization. No one on the right is trying to make America the country of the white. She wants people who are ignorant to think that that's what Republicans and Trump and conservatives want, is a country that's white. This is the endless, insidious effort of the American left, including Ilhan Omar, to plant seeds of fear and doubt in the minds of people of color in this country, so they will think, gee, I don't know, Ilhan Omar said that, well, we got to fight so that we don't become a country of white people. No one is arguing for a country of white people. No one. It is Ilhan Omar and her left-wing ilk trying to make ignorant people think that's what the right is up to. She went on after that. There are numerous things when people say that she's anti-American. She wrote a letter on behalf of some Somali refugees who were arrested and prosecuted and convicted for their effort to join ISIS. These are Somalian refugees who have been welcomed to this country, and their thank you to America to be welcomed to this country and educated in our schools and living in the neighborhoods, and some of them on welfare, is to try to sign up with ISIS to go kill American citizens, American soldiers over with ISIS. They got caught trying to sign up with ISIS. They got prosecuted. She wrote a letter on their behalf. Come on, these are just young people. They just got a little mixed up. Let's not fool with that. So there are just, there's one more thing I'll share with you. I want to make clear that the idea that people react to Ilhan Omar with anger and frustration is not because of race. It's not because of her religion. Some people live in this country and who are Muslim, who do not do the things she does, who do not say the things she says, who do not act the way she does, who do not speak up for, care, and minimize the attacks on America on 9/11. I think there was one more thing I was going to hit that she had engaged in. Just at a recent thing, she told at a recent speech, she was complaining about Republicans, and which is typical, but she ended up she spoke at a veterans group and said that 45% of veterans are forced to live on food stamps, on military families. 45% of military families are forced to rely on food stamps because Republicans don't care about taking care of the military. The actual number is under 5%. She just makes stuff up to attack the other side. This is not in the ballpark of political debate, left things, right things. This is flat out lies to alienate people against America. So Ilhan Omar, the just notorious anti-Semite, numerous anti-Semitic statements, and just anti-American, putting America down in all sorts of contexts, and then trying to say that she thinks her view should have equal value or merit in the eyes of all of America, and they don't. It's okay to listen to her words and recognize she does not support the America that we all love, which has nothing to do with skin color. She doesn't support it.